Hi. Okay, so I actually did my hair this time. So if I don't get at least like 20 comments telling me I look pretty, I'm gonna be really upset. So देखो यार, ये UAPA वगैरह ना एक वीडियो में तो होने से रहा. It's going to take at least half a dozen videos. All I know is all those videos are going to be dedicated to government auntie who was way ahead of her time. So let's get straight to it. Legislations such as the UAPA are in direct contraventions to the fundamental freedoms that are guaranteed to us in a constitution, which are indispensable for a democracy to function. सरल भाषा में laws like UAPA go against the fundamental rights that are guaranteed to us as citizens. तो ये fundamental freedoms के against जाता है. अभी fundamental rights बोले तो you know the right to express yourself through demonstrations and protests, allow for public mobilizations of opinions irrespective of whether these opinions are critical of the government or not. But देखकर तो ये लग रहा है that these rights are only reserved for people who are talking in support of the government. So
भारत में सब अच्छा है, सब चंगासी.
the UAPA can be traced back to colonial times, just like most things in India. The Indian Criminal Law Amendment Act 1908 first used the term unlawful association to criminalize the Indian national movement. मतलब UAPA का नींव ही anti-national है. It was literally used by colonizers so they could subdue the freedom struggle of India. But ironically, post-independence, the government uses the same tools and the same powers to curb political dissent by using the UAPA. Under any common law jurisdiction, the special laws take precedence over the law of the land. So, special laws may be the UAPA, the TADA, NDPS, MACOCA, etc. But we're not really getting into that for obvious reasons. Let's get to why UAPA is problematic. Banning of associations. Now, the Criminal Law Amendment Act of 1908 allowed for banning of organizations. Now, keep in mind that this happened in colonial India, done by an executive fiat. Gaadi ki company jaisa naam hai, but a fiat is actually a decree. Now, through the 1908 Act, the British Raj essentially gave itself the power to declare an association as unlawful if it interferes or if its objectives include interference with the administration of the law or with the maintenance of the law and order, or that it constitutes a danger to the public peace. Now, this power was unchecked by any judicial oversight, and the colonial state regularly used this enactment, most notably against the Congress Party. But also against the myriad of organizations, which you can look up because Google free hai. Nationalist elites argued that even the colonial rule of law required that there be judicial oversight of this power. Basically, privileged nationalist लोगों ने भी कहा कि आप थोड़ी तो मर्यादा रखिए, लॉ colonial हुआ तो क्या हुआ, थोड़ी जुडिशरी भी तो होनी चाहिए. V.G. Rao, State of Madras versus V.G. Rao case of 1952 invalidated the earlier 1908 law as being violative of the constitutional rights to freedom of association. The Supreme Court found that the act of banning an organization, any association, without giving the association reasons for the government's decision nor the opportunity to be heard before an impartial tribunal, fell outside the constitutionally permissible limits on the restrictions on the freedom of association. Essentially, if the government just goes around banning organizations, that crosses the limits of the constitutions and limits the freedoms that people have of organizing in a democracy. Now, after the law had been used in colonial times to curb dissent and to subdue the Indian freedom struggle, comes the 1962 emergency. Quick recap, the 1962 emergency was in response to Chinese incursions across India's northern border. Emergency was extended in October 1963 for 3 more years, and the 1965 war with Pakistan provided additional justifications for it to remain in effect. Now, why am I talking about the emergency? It's because it was during this time period in 1967 that the Congress introduced the Unlawful Activities Prevention Bill in the Parliament. Now, the bill sought to extend the power claimed by the government during the emergency, that is, the power to ban associations. So, essentially, the power that the government had during emergency, the Congress Party wanted it to be used even after emergency. In moving the Unlawful Activities Prevention Bill in the Parliament, the then Home Minister acknowledged that the power to ban organizations was an exceptional, drastic power, but one he thought necessary in the interest of protecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the country. Opposition members of the Parliament, reeling under the 5-year emergency period, questioned the necessity of such a legislation and more particularly feared that this proposed law could be used, like the 1908 colonial law, to target political opposition and organizations that opposed the Congress government and their brand of Indian nationalism. Ring a bell. In response, the Home Minister characterized the power to ban associations as one that is extraordinary and radical. In fact, the Home Minister and the other ruling Congress Party MPs that defended the bill in the Parliament argued that while it was indeed permanently entrenching an emergency power of the government, this power was qualitatively different from the power claimed by the colonial state. And how is that? The Congress Party pointed to the fact that the bill placed the burden on the government to state reasons for its decision to ban any organization. And the decision to ban an organization was mandatorily subject to adjudication before an independent tribunal. So every decision to ban any organization had to be brought up for review in front of a tribunal that would then decide if the government's banning of the organization is justified or not. In fact, what made UAPA qualitatively different from the colonial law, according to the Congress, is that the government had to justify banning of an organization. So this is how, according to the Congress, what made UAPA qualitatively different from the colonial law is the fact that the government had to justify the banning of an organization. So here's a fun fact. The 1962 emergency was not actually formally revoked. It just came to an end when the term lapsed and the government did not renew it. So just like when you forget to, renew your driving license, गाड़ी है but license नहीं है. The 1967 Act therefore creates the power to ban associations within the constitutionally defined limits set by the Supreme Court. Now, the Act gives the central government the power to ban an association if the association or its members does anything which supports or is intended to bring about the cession or secession of any part of India, does anything which disclaims or questions the sovereignty and territorial integrity of India, or violates India's hate speech laws. Talk about hate speech laws.
गद्दारों को गोली मारो सालों को देश के गद्दारों को पीछे तक आवाज आनी चाहिए गिरिराज जी को सुनाई दे देश के गद्दारों को.
The Act gives the power to the Government of India to declare an association as an unlawful association by notification which must contain a list of charges against that particular association. The Act lays down that upon publishing the notification, the central government must constitute a tribunal comprising of a sitting judge of a high court, which upon hearing the government and the association will declare whether or not there is sufficient cause to sustain the government's declaration. Essentially, the sitting judge, the High Court judge, will hear the government and the banned association and decide if the government's ban of the association is justified or not. Now, here's why banning organizations is a problem. Going by the definition I stated before, even a doctor who treats someone from banned organization can be charged under the UAPA. Like the Sardarji who organized langars for the Shaheen Bagh protesters, who was charged with UAPA. The democratic right of disseminating or receiving information, of generating public debate, of voicing opposition of government policies, all belong to the realm of unlawful and terrorist activity under the UAPA if the central government so desires. So if you're talking against the policies of the government, you might as well be charged with UAPA and thrown in jail. These are activities that would otherwise channel the democratic process, but the government chooses to ban them as terrorist activities. For example, Binayak Sen's incarceration was justified under the UAPA while he was actually victimized for voicing opposition to the government operations such as Salwa Judum. Section 39 of the law actually prevents expression of any progressive political ideas or even opposition to injustices in people's daily life. Invocation of UAPA on these accounts acts as a preventive measure to suppress voices that speak even before they are heard.
लौड़ा के सरकार है।